the sensory deprivation tank. Sounds kind of scary, right? Like if somebody was like, hey man, why don't you step inside of my sensory deprivation tank? Like, whoa, this is creepy. How did I end up in this dark alley? Why am I in the back of this van? But it's not like that. The sensory deprivation tank is really a place to let your mind rest at ease like it's never rested before. You're laying in 2,000 pounds of magnesium sulfate in water. Okay, so you're floating in this water. You can't sink in this water. You feel weightless. The water is the same temp as your internal body. So you can't really tell where the water ends and your body begins, or vice versa. The magnesium sulfate's great for your body, great for your skin, has a lot of therapeutic qualities to it, kind of like laying in a giant bath of Epsom salt. And the sensory deprivation tank cuts off the senses so you can't see. There's nothing really to listen to unless you can have music playing inside of there, but they suggest you go in there in silence. And you can't really feel anything or touch anything. I mean, you can touch the walls, obviously. You can touch yourself, obviously. And you can touch the water, but the idea is to give your brain an opportunity to not have any of the normal inputs that are being inputted constantly into your brain, to cut those all off and just let your mind roam without any incoming senses. Craziness. It's crazy. It's great for people with insomnia, great for anxiety, PTSD. I guess it's been really beneficial for. You'll find out about all of that in this podcast. I've had 4 experiences now in the sensory deprivation tank, otherwise known as a float tank, and every time I get into it, I have a new revelation, I have a new experience. We'll talk about those in this podcast, and as we move forward with my trips into the float tank, I'll have more descriptive elements of this, more ways to tell you what this float tank does, what these sensory deprivation tanks are all about, and why they're sweeping the nation, why so many people in so many places are getting on board with sensory deprivation tanks. This is a fascinating conversation with LHTA Wellness. First, though, let's shout out to the sponsors of the podcast, Trade Secrets in downtown Altoona, Pennsylvania. Trade Secrets _skincare on Instagram, natural body care products to keep your body healthy, like Epsom salt or sugar scrubs, bath bars, wax candles, wax melts, lip balms, body lotions. Steph and her husband Andy are expanding right now, and I think they're actually putting a salt room in right now. Maybe I spoiled the surprise, but too late now, we can't go back. Trade Secrets in Altoona. The Clay Cup in Altoona, Pennsylvania as well, at The Clay Cup on Facebook and Instagram. Sarah Vogel, who runs the joint, is an artist at heart, and she has created an amazing environment for people to enjoy themselves, enjoy their artistry, enjoy coffee and tea and community at the Clay Cup. That is what it is all about. Pottery painting. We just did some pottery painting there last week with my son Max. It was so much fun. Made a mug for my mom for Christmas. And Juice, Joos, 517 Allegheny Street in Hollidaysburg, The Juice Bar, Joos. Cold pressed juice and smoothies, smoothie bowls, bone broth. I have a mild sickness right now. Maybe you can tell I'm a little bit verklempt. I'm kind of stuffed up, and I should get down to juice, because when winter comes and you have kids in preschool and there's germs everywhere, you need healthy foods to make you strong again. Hot soups, raw vegan baked goods, all fresh, made to order at Juice. Thank you for listening to the show, and now let's get this thing started. Let's get our float on, shall we?
This is Rob Z Radio.
Welcome, everybody. I'm here today at the LHTA Wellness Center, the Laurel Highlands Therapeutic Association.
Academy.
Academy. Okay.
Yes.
Almost got it right. And I'm here today. Introduce yourselves. Let's start off with that and talk about what you do here. We're in Evansburg, Pennsylvania. So tell a little bit about yourselves and about the business, and then we'll get into the float.
Sure. I am Becky San Gregorio. We've been the parent company. Laurel Highlands Therapeutic Academy has been around for 15 years. This wellness center, not that long, not even quite a year. We've been up here, still in the mini mall, just a different location, up a couple doors. And yeah, we're doing very well with massage therapy, flotation therapy. Soon we'll have halo therapy, which is salt therapy. So that will be fun too.
Very cool.
And my name's Anthony. I'm Becky's husband and co-owner. Like she said, we've been in business for about 15 years. We just decided that we wanted to expand, get into a bit of a wellness center. And so we are offering the flotation therapy now. It's something that we've personally come into contact with try to help ourselves in certain aspects, and I'm sure in the rest of the podcast we'll get into the different things that flotation helps. But yeah, it's great. We're getting a great response already for flotation, and yeah, so.
Very cool. This is something that I've been hearing about for a couple of years now. So, I mean, if anybody follows Joe Rogan, I mean, he talks about it all the time. That's kind of where I had first heard the terminology, the sensory deprivation tank, and I had no idea what it meant. And I've heard about it so many times that when I found out you guys were here, I was like overjoyed. Like, I have to try this out. I have to get up there as soon as I possibly can. And
in little old Evansburg, right?
Yes. Very unexpected, I would say, for sure. I guess big cities have float centers now, right? But the smaller towns, not so much.
Quite a few. I mean, you're going to go to a lot of the major population centers around the country, and there's going to be multiple ones. But one thing we found in doing our research, getting this ready, is there's a lot of small towns that are doing this too. A lot of the people that get involved into starting a float center, and there's places that just do flotation, where as a multidisciplinary kind of center, if you will, for wellness, there's a lot of places that are just doing flotation, and they're springing up all over, and people are doing it because they came into contact with flotation therapy and they know what it did for them, so they wanted to open a business and further put that out there to other people. So there's small towns all over the country that have flotation centers. It's getting big all over. People are finding out the benefits of it. So
how did you guys first get involved? When did you find out about it? Did you stumble upon it? Did you know and you sought out to find one? Or how did it all happen?
I think that I've been a massage therapist for 22 years. So massage is very much my world. And I've been an educator for 18 of those years. And I think that I've lost the ability to enjoy a relaxation massage because I can't not be an educator. It's we tell the story all the time. Tony and I renewed our vows, and we got a massage as part of our package for our second honeymoon. And the whole time we were getting a massage, I was like, well, if you put your feet over here and actually work cross body, you'll ergonomically that's better. So I've lost the ability.
Ruining the whole massage.
I know, I did. I absolutely did. I watch my own clients when they come out of my room and they just have this relaxed look and just look so peaceful, and my muscles feel better after a massage. I feel wonderful, but I don't get that relaxation. So I think, and you know how important stress is a major issue right now with everybody, and finding a way to relax is so necessary. So we went out and we tried acupuncture, we tried infrared saunas, we tried halotherapy, we tried everything, and finally found flotation therapy, and that's my answer. That's what I need as far as therapy for me. The first time I floated, we laugh all the time. The first time I floated, the lights came on like at the end of the session, and I literally sat up and cried because I just finally felt that relaxation. So I did. I came out of the float room like, yep, I need these. These need to go home with us. So,
where were you at when you first found it?
The first time I tried it was in Nevada.
Okay.
So yeah.
How many years ago was that?
Over a year. It took me over a year from the very first time I tried it until we got it to be able to offer it here. It took a long time.
That was 2012 was the first time you floated.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But then by the time we
were
ready, to kind of do it here,
we
did some of our research. I mean, we didn't just decide to do it the next day. We did some research. We looked into things.
Oh yeah, it's a process.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So about 6 years ago, you floated for the first time.
Yeah.
And then through that decided we need to have one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
In our building.
Yes.
For personal use,
yes.
number one.
And let other people, share
sure,
it with other
sure.
people.
This is my pod, but you can use it if you want to.
Right. And so that's fascinating that you got it because as a teacher who helps people relax all the time, you weren't actually able to relax yourself.
Right.
Because you were always worried about or always thinking about how this could be better or how this person's not doing this right.
Absolutely.
Which would be very difficult, I'd imagine, in many situations. Somebody does something and you're like, wow, that was great, but, I do it like this and that's actually the best way. But when you're in with 2,000 pounds of magnesium sulfate and water, there's no telling the water to do it better. It's just, you're just there and it's doing what it's doing.
Well, you're just there with yourself. I mean, that's the beautiful part of it. I mean, there's nothing like, as a massage school, there's nothing like a good massage from a trained therapist who's, giving you effort and pressure and all those other things. But the beauty of flotation is you're in there by yourself and you can really just detach yourself from whatever stress is going on. We talk about it all the time. There's major professional athletes and people that train all the time as marathoners and CrossFit athletes and things like that are using it just as a restorative for after their events and things like that. But, they even get the benefit that most people are looking for of relaxation, because when you're in there by yourself, it's just, you can work on things, you can relax, you can the time is truly completely yours,
Which is rare from anywhere else in any other part of your life.
Yeah.
It's very impossible to disconnect.
Especially modern people. We're so plugged in with everything, cell phones and screens and just, activities and everything. So.
Yeah, it was funny going from most people, when they say they're relaxing, they're usually like sitting on the couch watching TV, which really is kind of relaxing, but your mind and your brain's still engaged, right? You're staring at a screen. So then it's go to meditation. Like, meditation's really relaxing, but then all of your sensory inputs, everything, you're still trying to ward off trying to let go of all of your senses as you're doing that. But then you hop in that tank and your brain almost doesn't know what to do. That's how I felt the first time. I'll be going my third time today. My first time, I think I came out and told you guys, it was like almost it was like anxious. My brain was kind of like, I want to do something. There's nothing to do in here. And that's kind of crazy because you're not used to that.
Absolutely. I think it was even after that session you had said that you were used to meditative practices, and it usually takes you how long to get to that place where you can really be detached from everything. And that's one of the interesting things about, like we were talking about, when you step in there, that already happens. That's already there. And if you know that going in or after your second or third float, knowing that, you can get right into the meditative process quick. When you step in there, for anybody that's listening that has never tried flotation before, it's going to be an environment where there's no lights on, there's going to be no music on. With that Epsom salt you were talking about in the water, it makes it buoyant, and you can float with no effort. There's no effort put into it at all. And then the water's temperatured so that your skin doesn't feel hot or cold. So when you can go in there, get into that space and that meditation, that quiet so much faster, the relaxation happens so much faster. It's more complete. So
yeah, and that's the strange part, is that you can't. I mean, to explain, to get into it, right? It's you can't really tell where your body ends and the water begins because it's the same temp, and you have no inputs coming in. The one thing that which you guys said in the beginning too, is that all I could really sense was my heart. I could just feel my heart beating, which you really, day-to-day life, you don't really notice your heart beating. It's just in there working, and you forget about it, which is not a good thing. You should recognize that it's there working for you all the time. Show some gratitude towards it, right?
Right, exactly.
So when you actually laying there and you're like, wow, I can actually hear my heart beating, that's kind of crazy. Yeah. That's how rare that happens, to get to that point that you can actually feel that. So you were saying before too, like you could hear the ripples on the water. You got into a certain point in there where you feel the ripples of the water from your beating heart, right? Right.
We're no experts, but we've through our research we found out that I guess there's a whenever you are able to get down into a sense of relaxation, where all those other processes in your brain, like we were talking about with lights off and the sound off, those are all processes in your brain that are constantly working as you're conscious and awake every day. Whenever you can put those on rest in there and you get really relaxed, those are all alpha waves, beta waves in your brain waves. There's the one down at the bottom resonates at the lowest, called the theta wave. Mm-hmm. And whenever you're in what they call a theta state, you're so relaxed that you can actually feel and hear your heart kind of ripple out into the water. I've had it happen about once or twice for me for a couple of minutes, and we float all the time. So it's one of those things I think that rarely happens, or unless you're really down into meditative processes while you're in there, that it can happen. But it's a really neat phenomenon whenever it does happen. It's just like you said too, the quiet of being able to be in there and feel your heartbeat in your own body, and to sit there and listen to your breath as you're doing that. I mean, it's something that I always harp on it here when I talk to everybody. It's the modern person. We're so plugged in and dialed in with all this technology. I think we lose track of ourselves, and it's a great place to just be in touch with yourself. And what better way than to hear that heartbeat that's keeping you going every day. It's like you said, show some gratitude for it, because whenever you don't and it stops, guess what?
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed when the last time I was in there and that happened to me, I was like, what if I have a heart murmur? What if I hear like, what a strange thought. Like, I can hear my heart, and I'm like, what if it skips a beat? What am I going to do? Then I'll know. Then I'll have to go to the hospital. I'm like, wow, I need to relax. Like, that's a strange thing. That's what your mind just doesn't want to stop thinking stuff. And that's the only thing it had to think about. So it was like, well, how can I worry about that?
Yeah.
Let me figure out the worry. What's the worry there? And that's, I think, one of the biggest parts, I think, when you step in there and you really relax is that you realize, wow, I think about so many things constantly, not really all that necessary, especially in meditation. That's one of the biggest part of the practice. One of the biggest parts of the practice is to recognize your thoughts and let them go. And in there, I feel like they, in the beginning, flood to the surface and then kind of dissipate as the time goes on, which is really cool. Talking about the magnesium sulfate, so what are the benefits of that? Somebody might not understand, like, why are there 2,000 pounds, right, in each float? What's the point? What is the reason behind that?
Well, with Epsom salt, it's proven over the years that so many people have used it with literally no problems, no issues, no reactions to it. People have used it for years as a curative for aches and pains, as a soak. People use it as a laxative. People use it as fertilizer in their gardens. There's a lot of different uses for it, and it just has proven to be, there's other things that we could probably be using, different grades of salts and other mineral salts and things like that. But you're going to get into, I think, a situation where you don't know if somebody's going to have a reaction with it. I think that's the reason why Epsom salt is used primarily, because of all the other properties that you get from it also, as like I said, as far as aches and pains and things like that. So whenever you use 2 pounds of Epsom salt to every gallon of water, I think it was about, 20 bags, 20 50-pound bags we used.
Wow.
With that 400 gallons of water. It's a lot.
That's amazing.
But it's amazing. It really is. And the other part of the process, too, is we say Epsom salt. Like I said, not an expert, but through our research, I found out we call it Epsom salt, but it's actually, it's not a salt like sodium. We call it a salt geologically, I guess, because it coalesces as a salt. From there, it's magnesium sulfate. In there, what we actually found out from a manufacturer was when you put a certain amount of Epsom salt into water, you're going to get extra water because part of the chemical breakdown is actually 7 parts of water to the magnesium sulfate. So there's actually water in there that makes it hold together as a salt.
Gotcha.
So when you put it in there, it actually releases more water into your water. So you actually have to watch how much Epsom salt you put in there so you don't end up overflowing your system. So there's water actually in that Epsom salt. So there's really almost no downside to using Epsom salt. Unless somebody came to us and said, well, I've had a reaction before, or I'm allergic, but I don't think it happens nearly at all. I think it's a very rare thing for someone to show a reaction to Epsom salt. So,
and that's well known for relaxation, right? That's my wife uses that in the bathtub when she takes baths. Just pour some Epsom salt in. It's kind of known for that. And what's really cool about, I guess, this float pod compared to different ones, this one, the water drains out and also comes, so when you get in there, it's empty and it begins to fill up, which is the great recommendation that you gave me, was to lay there when it's empty and let it kind of lift you up as the water comes in, which is a really cool sensation. And then it drains back out, so it's a whole filtration system each time, compared to other ones which the water stays in at all times, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because our float pod is pretty much brand new to the market. We found the manufacturer, and what he actually did was he traveled to all the float centers all over Europe, because it's actually quite, flotation is quite big in Europe, getting big here in America, and he asked everyone, I see you have this, but if I could build you one from the ground up, what would you want? And he just researched. It took him about 3 years, actually, he said. And he went all over, and what he came up with was our product. So what you're actually seeing when you float here with us is 3 years of research from a guy who was already involved in the industry and finding out what people in the industry would want. One of the things that a lot of people said was, boy, I wished I could get in there and clean that. But when you put 400 gallons of water in there, plus 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, you don't want to take it out. You don't want to drain it and put it back in, so you can never really get in and actually clean the whole thing. That's the great thing about ours. We can actually get in, clean the whole inside down, make sure it's nice and clean, and when that water goes back through a set of pipes, it goes through a filtration process that is almost second to none. I mean, it really cleanses the water. It's pretty much as clean as the day it went in.
So with other tanks, they can't clean them out? Is that how that works, or what happens? I was always curious about that.
They can, but the problem is right where the water meets the side. Think of like any type of spa or pool that you're in. You're always going to have that part where the water, you really can't get in there. If you use any kind of detergents or cleansers and things like that, then you have a water chemistry problem. You have to put other things back in to get the water to go back to a condition that's good for people to float in. So a lot of times there's just not a good process for getting these things clean. But most of the time, I mean, they're using chlorine, they're using bromine, all the things you normally would clean. So it's perfectly fine. I just know for us and what we wanted to offer, we wanted to have something that we could guarantee, we could say, this is as clean as you're going to get anywhere. Nothing to take away from everyone else. It's just, we're right here at the forefront of a change, I think, in the industry with the way things are going to start to go. And I think that we think that our product is just where everything's going to be going from here. Not to say that anybody else isn't being clean. It's just impossible to get it clean, when the water's still in there.
Yeah, be very
clean
difficult.
like we can.
Right. That's why yours is so unique. I don't know. We'll have to. I have some pictures, but I'll have to do a little video of the water coming in, cleaning, going back out, because it's really cool to see. Number one, like that pod looks like it's coming out of the Matrix or something, right? I mean,
a lot of people tell us they think about the egg from Mork and Mindy. Whenever Mork, it looks just like that.
Yeah, it's very cool looking. Number one, just to step inside of it. But it's just when you get in and it lifts you up, and then you have like how do you describe it? A sunset in the beginning that kind of is light, and then gradually goes through colors until it's dark, and then at the end the music will start again and the lights will come back on through that series, which is a great sleep wake up cycle. That's how it's designed, right? I would imagine
it's pretty much designed to follow our normal patterns. The nice thing is anybody that feels like they may be claustrophobic, there's a lot of room in there. There's no abrupt light changes or music changes. Everything happens very gradually, so it's very relaxing. There's not going to be like I step in and lights go off. The music goes off. What's going on? There's a switch at the back, very big one. You can hit. It's not a flip switch. You just hit it. Turns the lights back on if you might feel like you're having a little bit of a claustrophobic crisis or anything else like that.
And you can also leave the door open. That's what people were saying to me.
Right.
I don't want to be locked inside of this thing. Well, you can leave the door open.
Yeah, you can leave the door open all the
it.
way from completely open, which would leave about a 5-foot area completely wide open to the outside, a 5-foot by about 3-foot section, so about the size of a normal standard window at someone's house. You can be able to see out of it. The only thing is that our pod is designed to keep all the sound out, which lends to your relaxation. So just, if anybody decides to do that, keep in mind you might let some sound in, taking away from your experience, but still not a big deal. You're going to get used to it. It's completely fine to do.
And talking about experiences, I'll talk about mine first, I guess, because my first experience was, it was kind of confusing, because I think the first time you go in, you're not sure what to expect, and your brain's not ready for what to expect. My second time going in, which I told you coming out, I had been in there for, how long is it once the lights go down until they come back on? How long is that?
An hour, 60 minutes.
It's an hour through that. It felt like about 15 minutes, to where I know I didn't fall asleep, but I think I went into the theta state or whatever where I feel like I lost time, like some situation like a flow state, I guess.
Yeah.
Like where the lights started coming on and I thought, wait a minute, I've only been in here for like 15, 20 minutes. Something must be wrong. And that's what I thought.
Oh, wow.
I thought well, something must have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll like turn it back on. I'm like, oh wait, this is it. It's done.
Love it.
I had been in there that whole time. So what does that say about what's going on inside of your brain when that happens?
Whenever you don't have around you, to not sound trippy or anything, when you don't have a reality around you where you're actually seeing your surroundings, you're not hearing your surroundings, you're floating, and most people, even when they float maybe on the ocean or a pool, they're using effort to do that when you can just do it without any effort. we kind of feel our reality a little differently. It's not the same. So, you experience time differently because then you're left with your thoughts or just no thoughts.
Yeah.
What's the saying someone used? Carefree timelessness.
Oh yeah, it's something that a number of years ago, I came into that idea of carefree timelessness. We, as modern people, we don't make time for that. We make time for watching a football game or watching a TV and things like that. And that's something I was even bad at before I found flotation. But I was reading a book, and then this guy was talking about this idea of carefree timelessness. It's like, what we used to do at Grandma's house on a Sunday afternoon. The afternoon would just go right away from you, and you wouldn't even know that 3 hours went by. And it's something that we don't have anymore as modern people. That ability to just let hours go by and just be happening instead of doing something. The experience of whenever you're in there, whenever you're alone with that thought, or whatever you're working on, or no thoughts, or whatever you're trying to do when you're floating, you can just experience time differently. And I don't mean that in like a trippy, new agey kind of way. I mean, it's just, you can experience it differently. And that in and of itself is beneficial, to realize that an hour went by and it felt like 15. Or we've had some people say, oh, that felt like 2 hours in there. Maybe that's what you needed at that point in time.
Yeah. Because things are going to pop up in your mind, some of them good, some of them not so good, right? It's just kind of expected. And that's the point, to work through that.
We had a lady come out, and as soon as she came out of the door, she goes, I really like that. She goes, I need to go apologize to somebody right now. She had some kind of thing that her brain, the fact that it came up in there meant that whenever her mind was quiet, it came to the forefront, and she had a time to think about it and mull it over. And she goes, I need to go apologize to somebody. That's a powerful thing. She got a chance to realize, not regret.
Talk about intuition.
Yeah.
It's like it's there.
Forgiveness. I mean, she got to a point where she could find forgiveness in that happening for herself, and then went and was going to take care of that. I mean, who knows if it was a friend or a family member, but she potentially really fixed the relationship or a friendship there. Just in that experience.
Love it.
Yeah. When we talk about the trippy part of it, is like we always look for answers from other people and from things, but really when you find like the best answers, it's usually just from letting the universe kind of talk to you, giving yourself some space. Like for me, it was always walks. If I go on a long walk, I'll always have like the answer or the best idea. I'm like, wow, that was so easy. Just take a long walk and it'll come to you. Kind of like in there, when you're just letting your mind, just sit there and sort through everything. It's like going through all the file folders. Then you're going to sift through the right stuff and be able to figure it out. And I also noticed that like it makes your sleep when you go home incredibly good.
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
You're super calm.
Yeah.
You go to bed like right away. Not like a mentally, physically exhausted kind of sleep. It's like my brain really enjoyed that relaxation so much, it wants more of it.
Yeah.
It wants to relax some more and take it easy.
One of my favorite stories that we have from our short experience already, and I'd heard about it once or twice. I guess it's not the go-to for someone with insomnia, real heavy grade insomnia. But we had a lady that came in. She had heard through friends about how, we had flotation therapy. So she looked into it. She said, oh, I hear this might be something that's good for insomnia. This is a lady that, and I don't doubt her. She wasn't the type to come in and she didn't put on a show when she was talking. She said, yeah, I sleep about 3 hours a night, and I've done that for about 10 years. I've used all the medications from my doctor. I've used all the remedies, valerian root and melatonin, all those things that you use for sleep aids and such. She says, well, I heard this is good for insomnia, so I'm going to give it a try. So I said, hey, just like everything, throw everything at it. See what you can do to try to fix it. Yeah. And she came out and she goes, I really enjoyed that. I like that. She goes, I'll give you a call tomorrow, let you know how everything went. So that was about 3 o'clock. She was finished at 4:30. She went home. She lives local. Fixed herself something to eat about 4:30. And she called us the next day. She goes, she was going through this whole, telling us how this all went. And she said, yeah, it was about 5:30. I was done eating. I sat down. She goes, I sat on my couch. She goes, I feel like I could take a nap. She goes, that's really weird for me. Like 5 o'clock in the afternoon to sit there and take a nap, that doesn't sound right. She said, whenever I woke up the next morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I had slept for 14 hours, flotation made a believer out of me. She slept 14 hours straight. She says she felt better than she had in years. She said, the next time I feel my insomnia creeping up, she goes, you're going to see me again.
How often does she come in? Is it regular basis, every week? Or?
Every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So when she feels that she's starting to bound up again and the insomnia is coming back, she comes back and she's been sleeping every night.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's either spending money on any of the herbal remedies or anything else that she could be spending it on coming in for this. I just like the fact that it's going to be an all natural kind of way, where she's going to almost help herself fall asleep.
Yeah.
So
I question, I guess, well, let's talk about experiences. So tell me about your first, the breakthrough experience you had in it. The one that told you, well, this is the thing I need to do. I mean, you kind of touched on it with you were crying as you got out of it, but what was it that caused that? What was the feeling or the moment or the epiphany or whatever that is for you?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, it's for me as a guy. I mean, my mind's always running. Mm-hmm. It's we have 4 kids. We got a business. We got a subsidiary business based off of this one. So we have a lot going on. Hey, I'm not saying poor me. I'm the first one to ever say that. But for me, it was aches and pains. Mm-hmm. It was aches and pains. I had heard that it would be good for that. And, I'd worked for a number of years, a physical job, still feel aches and pains from, just putting myself through that. And, I started to realize a lot of benefit from it as far as aches and pains. Like we said before, Epsom salt's great for that. But then the floating, being able to have all the tension in your muscles and your joints, be able to relax at that point in time for a full hour and a half. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just, you can't even get that on a really good bed. You're always going to have some pressure points and things like that. So that for me, it was that. But then it has turned into being able to get much more stable in emotions. Everyone day to day, we're not the same person. Your emotions are up and down, things are happening. So even from a standpoint of being able to keep a much more even, stable emotional state, mental state throughout your week, going through all those things, that's something that came up after I floated enough times. So how about you?
I think my main pull for flotation is mental clarity. Like Tony mentioned, we have 3 different businesses that drag us in many different directions. We've got 4 kids and so much. People don't know how to slow down. We don't take time to slow down. And even this morning, I floated to prepare for this podcast, so I didn't sound like an idiot. So I think that it just helps me. Not that like you mentioned, that it felt like 15 minutes. Your brain checked out, and I love it. But sometimes I use it more as a focus point. I'll write a chapter of a book while I'm in the float pod. I use it for mind. Yeah, and then you hop out of the pod and you write things down for real. But
the floats that I don't like is whenever she comes out and she has a list of things for me to do.
I do.
You're supposed to be relaxing. Why are you giving me a list of things to do?
Absolutely.
Stop.
I'll come out, all right, this.
Now, how do you remember that in the flow? Because I'll do that in meditation. I'll think of all the things I need to do. Those are all great ideas. But I'm all right, let them go. I need to keep meditating, and then I'll forget them usually. Or if they're really powerful, they'll come back. Right,
they do. Yeah, definitely. And I think that, again, you're taking away so much of the stimulation to your brain that it can focus a little bit more. You've got more brain power that can be dedicated to those things that you're thinking of.
Very true.
Instead of all the chaos, what's Tony says about me all the time, my brain is just like this computer that's opened and there's so many tabs that are going on and nothing ever gets X'd out. So
and where is this music coming from?
Well, yes, exactly. And control, delete, everything. So I think flotation just narrows it down. I've got one tab and I can focus on that. And that's very valuable because I'm not going to find that anywhere else in my life. I need that. So that's my go-to.
Yeah, it's nice that people they'll leave you alone, in there. Mm-hmm. It's massage, obviously, and other things like that are ways of disconnecting. But in there, nobody's coming in you know that nobody's going to be banging on the door.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen. And I find that to be incredibly relieving.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, how do you, especially with 4 kids, like I have a 4-year-old, sometimes you go into the bathroom just to get like a couple minutes of peace.
Absolutely.
Right? It's very hard to get peace.
Right.
So when you go in there, it's like, well, this is what this is here for,
Right.
Yeah.
to get that hour of peace that you won't get anywhere else.
It forces you to take time for yourself.
Yeah.
One of the
Right.
things we've always said for a couple of years now, we will
Sure
tell
do.
people, whenever they come in for a massage, you know, they had a bad day, they were rushing, they had traffic or anything else like that, and they're like, oh, it's just been such a day. And we go, relax, the next hour is yours, you know. And it's like I say, modern people, we just don't know how to stop and take a little bit of time for ourselves, especially someone who comes from a nature of wanting to be a giver or a helper. They definitely don't know how to do that for themselves. They're,
Yeah.
you know, to their own detriment, physically, mentally, emotionally. Take your pick of any of those caregiving kind of jobs and professions out there. You can see it. It's all over the place. So this is definitely something that can help someone who's a caregiver. We actually have quite a few of our students and things like that. We tell them, hey, go. You've had a hell of a week. Go get in the float. You'll feel better, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because owning your own business, and even if you have a job that you work for somebody else, it's always about the grinding. You're grinding it out, and you're supposed to be working hard. And some people they've never even taken the time to slow down, and they're afraid to, almost like they're afraid
hustle. Everything's gonna pass you
Right.
by.
And like you're afraid to like face what's going on inside of your own head when you ask somebody if they've ever meditated, and like, well, yeah, I tried, but I couldn't. I mean, everybody's the same. We all have this constant wheel of thoughts going on. It's not like you're any different. Maybe you think more than other people do, but like the more you take time to see what's going on in there, it'll slow down, and the more it slows down, the more you slow down, and the more calm you are, and then the less you do it, the more it builds back up, right? So it's kind of like that thing that
Absolutely.
you have to take the time to do.
You can see how people end up with low grade or even high grade anxiety disorders. Then they got that constant wheel constantly moving. That's why this is something that they're finding out is actually doing wonders for people with anxiety disorders. I mean, it's just a great thing. All that stimulus that normally has your brain moving all the time can be put at rest. I mean, it's just great what they're finding out. There's studies being done out at a place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Laureate Institute for Brain Research, and Dr. Feinstein out there. It's just amazing. He was actually on a CBS This Morning clip, and they actually had one of their guys go out there and do the whole deal and go through and show what they're doing out there. It's just amazing stuff. They can show that your heart rate slows down. They can show that your brain waves slow down, all those things. So that's really important for somebody with an anxiety disorder, and they need to be able to just unplug, slow down, bring everything down a bit. Through our research, and it's really becoming something big right now. PTSD, another thing this is really great for. You have stimulus constantly working on someone with an issue that's unresolved. It's actually starting to show physical manifestations of causing this person, grief and ill health. They're finding out in PTSD counseling, the counselor knows how to engage that person's thought processes and get at that trauma that caused the PTSD, and then that person being able to work on that. Because in counseling, you're always going to go home and work on something afterwards. You're going to have mantras or things you have to say and do. They're finding out that putting them in an environment like this, someone with a PTSD, once again, PTSD, it's an adverse reaction to outside stimulus. Mm-hmm. What's better place to work on that and go through those processes than in that float tank? We've had some veterans come up that are PTSD. One actually brought up his service dog along with him, sat in the room. It's showing a lot of great possibilities for these people to actually heal their PTSD and start to move on. We've read articles where people are like, I'm not only like living again, I'm thriving. I'm able to actually move forward in my life. It's always going to be there, but now I can actually work on it. I can deal with it and still thrive and live. So
yeah. What do you say to somebody who, like, the reason they don't want to do it is they're scared of the things that are inside of their head? because that's usually what one of the main deterrents is, right? Like facing that's scary. So with people with PTSD, I mean, obviously they're going through, they have some serious things in their head they have to deal with, they have to face. It's brave to get in there and face that. Like, that's very brave.
It's brave for a regular person to go back. And like I said, that lady before who felt like she had to go and apologize to someone. Yeah. That's brave. It's incredibly brave to go and face your inner demons, the things that are causing serious problems in your life. I would say if you feel like it's something that you need to work on, flotation by itself isn't going to fix it. You've got to get with a counselor. Try to find a counselor that maybe knows about some meditative techniques or about flotation and how you can work that in conjunction, whether you float at our place or somewhere else. I think finding a counselor would help you with your PTSD that knows how to do those practices and say, go in, float, work on it there. I definitely think, Yeah,
that's a good suggestion, coupling it with something else. So you have the techniques, and then you can go in there and use the techniques in the tank.
Absolutely.
That's good.
I don't think you'd want to walk in, lay down, and start trying to deal with your big bad demons. I think that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that can
couple it
scary.
Along with something, and even people with the anxiety disorders or anything else. Talk to your counselors. Find out about it if it's something that they can use along with what you're doing currently to help enhance everything. Definitely, you can't hit problems with just one issue. You usually got to hit it with a couple, no matter what you're talking about.
Throw everything at it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. throw it all at it and see what sticks.
Exactly.
No doubt, definitely. And since you're already taking the meds or whatever that might be, your situation is, I mean, this might be a way to, because I think anybody who's on, I shouldn't say everybody, but lots of people who are on medications, they want to get off of them at some point. Right. It's not like I don't want to be on this thing forever. It's just that right now I don't know anything else. So instead of taking another medication to go with the other medication, then you need another medication to fix the side effect of the other medication.
That's exactly it.
This could be the supplement medication.
Yeah. Nothing against medication. There's some great miracle drugs out there that have given people a lot of hope, regardless if it's mental or if it's a physical ailment.
Yeah.
But you do get into those situations where you end up relying on it, and it starts causing side effects, and you're taking something else, and all of a sudden you got yourself in a real bind. Yeah. Physically, right. Mentally.
And this is not a replacement for medications. It works in conjunction with.
Yeah, works in conjunction with. That's what we're about here too as a wellness center. Is just, we have people that come and they float, and then they go get a massage. And that is, boy, I'll tell you what.
That's probably a great combination.
Oh,
man.
It is a great combination. I've done it a few times, and boy, nothing to take away from our therapist here, our student therapist.
Now, can I float and then get a massage in the float tank? How does that work?
No, but we're working on doing Reiki while you're in the float pod.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
We've discussed quite a few things.
Yeah, we have.
And also the cool thing about that tank is, I guess that other ones don't have, is the room. Like, I can spread my arm. I mean, I'm 5'9", but I can spread my arms the whole way out, my legs the whole way out, and not touch the side.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, because you can really then get... Because you kind of want, did you say it was like a mermaid? You're like a mermaid in there?
You could be a mermaid.
You feel
absolutely.
like that's how I felt. Like I was kind of like swimming around in it, and it was...
Well, from head to foot, if the length of it, you can fit someone that's 7'4".
Wow.
And one of his ideas was he wanted to be able to fit any professional athlete in it. Because he had big plans. He wants to take this and make this as big as he can.
Yeah.
Just everywhere. He wants these everywhere. He thinks this is a superior product. So
they really should be everywhere.
So if you're not 7'4" and say you're 5'9", 6 foot, you have room, so much room above and beyond your feet. I mean, it's such a huge space in there. If you feel like you're a claustrophobic person, you leave that door open, but you're still going to find that there's a ton of room in there.
No doubt, yeah.
My purpose for that one is too, there's a ton of research on autism and ADHD for the little ones to float. That float is extremely beneficial. I wanted a pod that the caregiver can sit in the pod with the child while they float. So that was one of the things that drew us to this pod. If you've researched or Googled any of the other manufacturers, what they look like, not all your pods are going to give you room, like you said, to be a mermaid or to have a caregiver with you in the pod. So that was important to us too.
Have you guys had that?
We have, yes. Yeah.
Wow. How young of a
Oh, we've had 6-year-olds.
Really?
We've had sets of twins that float in the same pods. We've had all kinds of
Really?
interesting things.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and how have they? What do the kids say, or what do the caregivers say about the results?
They've had a good positive, and they are all coming for different reasons. We've got a little one who floats just for the magnesium. The main purpose he's in the water is for magnesium. His levels are always low, so with that much magnesium sulfate in the pods, and we can track the blood work when he does blood work to see how big of an effect it really has to his levels. There's not a lot of research. I can't give you a research study that says that magnesium is absorbed through the skin. I can't, even though we know it, even though we've been doing it for forever. But yeah, in our own little way, we can see that it changes lab levels for people.
That's incredible. How long does a 6-year-old last in there?
Oh, well, they're going to use it differently than you are. You got to
Yeah.
think of your
They're going to
your
be
son.
chatting, talking,
Yeah,
moving.
and they
yeah.
bring boats, bring a
Oh,
toy,
okay,
and play, and goggles, because if they splash, it's salty.
It
So
burns a little bit, yeah.
it's a different atmosphere for little ones.
At the
That's
same
so
time,
funny.
a 6-year-old is more in touch with their inner self than we as adults are. So they
Very
almost
true.
don't
Yeah.
need the kind of therapeutic benefit that you or I draw from it.
Right,
So there's
right.
there's that kind of thought process too.
That's very true. Yeah. They're not as messed up as we are.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, if they float enough, they won't ever get as messed up. Well, guys, this has been a great conversation. I really have my 2 sessions that I've had. I've enjoyed thoroughly. I've been telling everybody about it. Like I've probably told like 30 or 40 people now
Awesome.
about it.
Awesome.
Just like
Yeah.
spreading
As a
the
small
word.
business in a small town, it's great because that kind of personal endorsement goes a long way.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we do definitely appreciate it.
And you're in a great location too, because there's so many surrounding cities.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Like Evansburg is kind of a middle point.
Right.
with major highways coming in, 219, 22 coming from Altoona, Johnstown, Clearfield, Indiana. I mean, just for our massage, we have people that come from all over the region because we've had students from all over the region, and they tell people. So it's a nice central location, right here in the middle of Cambria County.
Anything else you want to throw in before we wrap it up? Anything else that I didn't go over that you'd want to mention?
No, I think it's been a good talk today. Maybe we've left a few things for maybe another episode. If
Absolutely.
you
I'd
wanted
love to revisit this in a couple of months
Absolutely.
and like go back and talk about the journey. Because you've
Absolutely.
already been going on the journey.
right.
I'd like to talk about my journey and also some sort of case study from somebody else. I would love to be able to talk to somebody who's been coming here for a while, has been using it for a while,
Oh,
and
yeah.
their own personal
Yeah.
transformation
We
through
have
it.
plenty that are willing. So
Yeah, I
Good.
think we got a couple in mind that actually would probably do a
Yeah.
pretty good
Oh,
job of being able to explain their experience and such. So
Cool. Yeah, I think
Definitely.
that'd be really powerful. And I like ideas of therapy that don't involve any sort of pills or anything like that, where you can do it
Yeah.
naturally.
any kind of outside intervention, let's say,
Yes.
anything else, just something where you're just with yourself and being able to deal with that. Because
Yeah.
I think it's so beneficial. So many people don't do it.
We forget that it's all inside of our mind. It's all there it's all fixable. We just got to tap in and listen to it.
Yep,
And we just
agreed.
don't take the time to listen.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
So if people want to contact you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, we got our telephone. We have email. We
Is
have
that a
Facebook.
landline or what?
Yeah, it's a landline. Yeah. It's we call us at 814-471-6871. That's our phone number. You can contact us by email at info at LHTAcademy.com. That's LHTA Academy. It's a little confusing, but
I'll put
we
all
just-
that in the show notes
Yeah,
as
there you
well.
go, yeah.
so
Put
they
that in
can
the show
find it there.
notes.
Facebook is good too.
Facebook is really, really good. We have our LHTA page, which is for the school and the massage. We also have the LHTA Wellness Center page that's on there for specifically flotation. We don't want to get any info lost because it's something new. We wanted to direct somebody right towards a site where they can get their info. If you go to Facebook and type in either LHTA or LHTA Wellness Center, you can contact us through Messenger there. And we usually get back to you pretty quickly. Anybody has any questions on it, they want to come up and see it first before they even schedule a float, we're more than happy to show it to you and have you go through it. So,
And if you go to my, there's some pictures on my Instagram, which is Rob Z Radio. You can go there and see. I posted about it. You have to scroll through, but you'll see the pod. It's glowing.
yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to miss.
Yeah.
So I'll put some of that up, and we'll do some video and stuff too to get some cool just to show how it works.
Absolutely.
How the water goes in and the whole process. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to see exactly what we're talking about, because if they don't know the size of the pod and how slowly the water comes in, and you almost don't even notice that it comes in, and it starts floating you when you're laying on your back, and all of a sudden your arms start lifting off, and your legs, and then your back, and then your hips, and it's just it's an experience unlike any other. So if they can actually see that would probably be great. So
yeah, the barrier to entry, it would eliminate some of the fear.
Right.
Trepidation
Absolutely.
that would come along with that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And we'll do this again soon.
No problem, Rob.
Yeah.
It's great
And,
having you.
Hopefully people got something out of this, and stop by LHTA Wellness Center in Evansburg, Pennsylvania.
Perfect.
We'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
Hey, what an awesome conversation. Thank you so much. LHTA Wellness Center, Evansburg, Pennsylvania. And really, these podcasts go all over the world. So if you're listening to this and you're not from central Pennsylvania, find a float tank. Find a sensory deprivation tank in your area. They're popping up in big towns and small towns all over the United States, all over the world. So thank you for checking that out. Hopefully that opened your eyes a little bit to what a sensory deprivation tank is all about. It doesn't sound as scary as maybe it once did to you. Maybe it sounds like something that could help you, maybe fix something in you. And that's what I'm hoping for from it as well. So as I continue this journey, I'll continue to talk about the float tanks that I use, and hopefully you try it out for yourself. Make sure you check out patreon.com/RobZRadio. If you want to support the podcast in any way, shape, or form, patreon.com/RobZRadio. My man Jake Over makes all the beats on this podcast also, so he's a music producer from Central Pennsylvania. If you dig any of the music that you hear on this show, know it's from Jake Over. Search for him on Facebook, Jake Over. Ddp Yoga, what I've been doing for about almost 3 years now. Ddp Yoga is a new form of yoga. It's not yoga like you think in the traditional sense. This is like traditional yoga practices with a lot of energy and a lot of force and momentum, a lot of strength training and strength conditioning and plyometrics included with the yoga to strengthen ligaments and tendons, all those parts of your body that, like if you're a weightlifter, those parts of your body that are holding it all together. They're holding the strong quads, holding the strong back and bicep and shoulders together. It's all the ligaments and tendons, all the tiny pieces we forget to pay attention to. That's what Ddp Yoga strengthens. And I'll just say that I use it. It's changed my body. It's changed my life over the past 3 years, so I suggest you do as well. Ddp, Diamond Dallas Page, Ddp Yoga. Check it out. Also to the sponsors, the Clay Cup, at the Clay Cup on Facebook and Instagram, Trade Secrets at Secrets and Trade on Facebook, and Juice, JOOS, at The Juice Bar on Facebook and Instagram. My zebras, thank you so much for listening. Get your float on, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace out.
This is Rob Z Radio.
That's brutal.